Hello, my name is Ioanni Dunaschi and I am representing Greek Association of Women Entrepreneurs. Today I will talk to you about regulation on European Social Entrepreneurs Fund. Increasingly, as investors also pursue social goals and are not only seeking financial returns, a social investment market has been emerging in the Union, comprising in part investment funds targeting social undertakings. Such investment funds provide funding to social undertakings that act as drivers of social change by offering innovative solutions to social problems. For example, by helping to tackle the social consequences of the financial crisis and by making a valuable contribution to meeting the objective of the Europe 2020 strategy set. Just a moment. The regulation sets out as new European Social Entrepreneurship Fund label so investors can easily identify funds that focuses on investing in European social businesses. The approach is simple. Once the uniform requirements defined in the proposal are met, managers of social entrepreneurship fund will be able to use the new label and market their funds across the whole of Europe. Every fund using the label will have to prove that the high percentage of investment, almost 70% of the capital received from investors, are spent in supporting social businesses. Uniform rules on disclosure will ensure that investors get clear and effective information on these investments. But to start, we need to know what is a European Social Entrepreneurs Fund. An European Social Entrepreneurs Fund is a fund that is a collective investment undertaking. It tends to invest at least 70% of its capital contribution and uncommitted capital in assets that are qualifying investment, does not use more than 30% of its aggregate capital contribution and uncalled commitment capital to occur non-qualifying investment, and 4 is established in the European Union. A collective investment undertaking, a fund which raises capital from a number of investors with a view to investing in accordance with the defined investment policy for the benefit of those investors. It does not require authorization under the directive. A qualifying portfolio undertaking means an undertaking that at the time of an investment by the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund is not admitted to trading on a regulated market or on a multilateral trading facility, as defined in point 14 and point 15 of Article 4 of Directive 2004 EC. Is to have the achievement of measurable positive social impact as its primary objective in accordance with its article of association. Also, it had such characteristics as provision of services or goods to vulnerable or disadvantaged or excluded personas. Employment, a method of production of goods or services that embodies its social objectives, or provision of financial support exclusively to social undertakings. Also, embracement of accountable and transparent way, in particular by involving workers, customers, and stakeholders affected by its business activities and establishment within a territory of a member state or in a third country provided. A qualified investment means equality or equality investment that are issued by a qualifying portfolio undertaking acquired directly by the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund from the qualifying portfolio undertaking. Second, a qualifying portfolio undertaking in exchange for an equity security issued by the qualifying portfolio undertaking. Or third, an undertaking of which the qualifying portfolio undertaking is a majority owned and which is acquired by the qualification social entrepreneurship fund in exchange of an equity investment issued by the qualified portfolio undertaking. Who does the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund apply to? The regulation lays down uniform requirements and conditions for managers of collective investment undertakings that wish to use the designation European Social Entrepreneurs Fund in relation to the marketing of qualifying social entrepreneurship funds in the Union, thereby contributing to the smooth functioning of the internal market. It also lays down uniform rules for the marketing of qualifying social entrepreneurs fund to eligible investors across the Union for the portfolio composition of qualifying social entrepreneurship funds for the eligible investment instruments and techniques to be used by qualifying social entrepreneurship funds, as well as for the organization, conduct, and transparency of managers that market qualifying social entrepreneurship funds across the Union. In summary, they apply to sub-threshold the alternative investment funds manager directly who meet the following criteria. First, managed portfolios of European social entrepreneurs funds are established in the United Union whose assets under management in total don't exceed the threshold referred to the point B of Article 3 of AIFMD and 4 are registered with the component authorities of their home member state in accordance with point A of Article 3. The regulation of European Social Entrepreneurs Funds came into force on July 22 in 2013. We are now going to see the conditions for the use of the designation European Social Entrepreneurs Fund. Managers of qualifying social entrepreneurship funds shall market the units and share of the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund exclusively to investors which are considered to be professional clients in accordance with Section 1 of Annex 2 to Directive 2004 EC. May, on a request, be treated as professional clients in accordance with Section 2 of Annex 2 to the same directive, or to other investors that first commit to invest a minimum of 100,000 euros and state in writing in a separate document from the contract that is concluded for the commitment to invest that they are aware of the risk associated with the commitment. And third, managers of qualifying social entrepreneurs fund shall identify and avoid conflicts of interest. Managers of qualified social entrepreneurs funds shall identify in particular those conflicts of interest that may arise between managers of qualifying social entrepreneurs fund, persons who effectively conduct the business, or those managers, employees of, or any person who directly or indirectly controls or is controlled by those managers, and the qualifying social entrepreneurs fund managed by those managers or the investors therein. Qualifying social entrepreneurship fund or the investors therein, and another qualifying social entrepreneurship fund managed by the same manager or the investors therein. And last, qualifying social entrepreneurship fund or the investors therein and the collective investment undertaking or US ITS managed by the same manager or the investor therein. Managers of a qualifying social entrepreneurship fund shall employ for each qualifying social entrepreneurship fund that they manage pursuits to measure the extent to which the qualifying portfolio undertakings in which the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund invests achieve the possible social impact to which they are committed. Managers must also ensure that these procedures are clear and transparent and include Indicators that may depending on the social objectives and nature of the qualifying portfolio undertaking include subjects such as employment and labor markets, standard and rights related to job quality, social inclusion and protection of particular groups, equal treatment, opportunities, of course, non-discrimination, public health and safety, and access to the social protection and educational system. The European Social Entrepreneurs Fund regulation also provides that the manager should be either an external manager, which is the legal person appointed by the European Social Entrepreneurs Funds or on behalf of the European Social Entrepreneurs Funds, and which through this appointment is responsible for managing the European Social Entrepreneurs Funds. Or the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund itself, which shall then be registered as manager, where the legal form of the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund permits an internal manager and where the governing body chooses not to appoint an external manager. An internal manager in European Social Entrepreneurs Funds cannot be appointed as the external manager or another European Social Entrepreneurs Funds. Managers of qualifying social entrepreneurs funds shall make available an annual report to the competent authority of the home member state for its qualifying social entrepreneurship fund that they manage by 6 months following the end of the financial year. The report shall describe the composition of the portfolio for the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund and the activities of the previous year. It shall also disclose the profits earned by the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund at the end of its life and, wherever applicable, distributed during its life. It must contain the audited financial accounts for the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund and be produced in accordance with existing reporting standards and the terms agreed between the managers of qualifying social entrepreneurship funds and the investors. Managers should provide the report to investors on request. Moreover, they may agree on additional disclosures to each other. The annual report shall at least include the following points: details as appropriate of the overall social outcomes achieved by the investment policy and the method used to measure those outcomes. A description of whether the investment in relation to the other assets of the qualifying social entrepreneurship funds which are not invested into qualified portfolio undertaking occur on the basis of the criteria. It should also include a summary of the activities that the manager of a qualifying social entrepreneurship fund has undertaken in relation to the qualifying portfolio undertaking. And last, it must include information on the nature and purpose of the investment other than qualified investments. An audit of the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund should be conducted at least annually. The audit shall confirm that the money and assets are held in the name of the qualifying social entrepreneurship fund and that the manager of a qualifying social entrepreneurship fund has established and maintained adequate records and checks in respect of the use of any mandate or control over the money and assets of the qualified social entrepreneurship fund and the investors therein. Who can invest? European Social Entrepreneurs Fund may only be marked to investors who have the experience, knowledge, and expertise to make their own investment decisions and properly assess to risk association and such investments. Therefore, European Social Entrepreneurs Fund may only be sold to investors who are or elected to be treated as professional clients. Second, are willing to invest at least 100,000 euros. And third, have confirmed in writing that they are aware of the risks associated with their investment. These restrictions does not apply to investments made by executives, directors, or employees involved in the management of a manager of a European Social Entrepreneurs Fund when they are investing in a European Social Entrepreneurs Fund that they manage. A professional investor is any investor that is considered to be a professional client or may be treated as a professional client on request. In order to ensure that European social entrepreneurs funds do not contribute to the development of systemic risks and that such funds concentrate in their investment activities on supporting qualified portfolio undertakings, the usual leverage of the level of the funds is limited. Managers of European Social Entrepreneurs Fund may not leverage the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund using any method by which the exposure of the funds will be increased beyond the level of its commitment capital, whether through borrowing of cash or securities, the engagement into their activity positions, or by any other means. They may not also borrow, issue debt obligation, or provide guarantees at the level of European Social Entrepreneurs Fund, where such borrowings, debt obligation, or guarantees are covered by uncalled commitments. Of European Social Entrepreneurs Fund must meet the following criteria in relation to the contact of businesses and the relation of those managers with their investors. They must act honestly, fairly, and with due skill, care, and diligence, have appropriate systems and controls in place to prevent malpractice that can reasonably be expected to affect the interest of investors. Conduct their business activity in a way that promotes the best interest of the funds they manage, their investors, and the integrity of the market. Have adequate knowledge and understanding of the undertaking in which they invest. Treat their investors fairly. Ensure that no investors obtains preferential treatment unless the treatment is disposed in the rules of instruments of incorporation of the fund. Not delegate functions to third parties to such an extent that it becomes a mere letterbox entity. Identify and wherever possible avoid conflicts of interest. Where this is not possible, the manager must manage, monitor, and disclose conflicts of interest appropriately to prevent them affecting the fund and investor interest. Have sufficiently own funds and use adequate and appropriate technical and human resources as necessary for the proper manager of the fund, and give the regulation and investors prescribed information at regular intervals. Registration obligatory? And what are the benefits of registration as a manager of a European Social Entrepreneurs Fund? If a manager and its funds are registered, the manager will be entitled to use the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund label for its European Social Entrepreneurs Fund. This label will entitle the manager to sell such funds across the United Union by way of a marketing passport, thereby avoiding the patchwork of uncertainty of private placement across the European Union. Registration as manager of a European Social Entrepreneurs Fund is an entitlement, but it's not an obligation. If you are a manager marketing your fund in the European Union and the investment policy of your funds is compatible with the requirement of the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund regulation, then you will be missing out an opportunity to greatly simplify the distribution of your own funds while also remaining subject to the registration criteria under AMFMD. By July 22, 2017, the Commission shall start a review of the interrogation between this regulation and other rules on collective investments undertaking and their managers, in particular those laid under Directive 2011 of the European Union. This report is addressing the scope of this regulation. If a manager manages funds that invest in qualifying portfolio undertakings, as defined in the European Social Entrepreneurs Fund Regulation, and meets the requirements of Article 3 of AIFMD, opportunity to avail of a marketing passport will be very attractive as it will not add appreciably to the light touch regulatory burden already imposed on that manager, who would in case be a registered manager under AIFMD. This regulation support European Union steps to develop a coordinated and coherent EU framework for investment funds targeting social businesses. However, the lack of trust and confidence in social investment propositions holds back the development of funds supporting social businesses, while poorly developed fund and inefficiency in cross-border access to investors are growth. To succeed, such funds must be predominantly investment in social businesses and provide clear and effective disclosures, including on social performance. By acting now, Commission can aid the growth of the social business sector, stimulate and broaden investment choices across the European Union, and deepen the pool of capital that funds that invest in social businesses can tap into. This will contribute to the European Union that makes a strong commitment to social entrepreneurs and the smart, inclusive and sustainable growth they bring. Thank you for your attention. Please leave your comments and questions under the video and don't forget to check our other videos and subscribe to our channel. Thank you and goodbye.